On June 13th, Israel launched precision airstrikes on nuclear sites, scientists, and military leaders in Iran in what has been called Operation Rising Lion. Iran retaliated with strikes of their own, and the world has been on edge ever since. Once news of the initial attack broke, my biggest concern as an American citizen was whether or not we would become involved. I knew that Israel doesn't have the bunker busting bombs needed to hit some of Iran's underground facilities, but that we, their closest ally, do. And sure enough, on Saturday the 21st, I returned home from my daughter's soccer tournament to see this.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan.
And now every possibility for disaster is at least on the table. Other nuclear powers are weighing in. There's talk of possible sleeper cells in the U.S. who may attack from within. Iran bombed a U.S. military base. And if you understand the ideology of the current government leading Iran, they don't care all that much about winning. They just want to watch the world burn. I don't know, maybe it's the fact that it's Israel, or that recent flash flooding in my hometown had me feeling particularly vulnerable, but this one hits different. I mean, this whole thing could resolve itself in the next few weeks. There was news of a ceasefire last night. It lasted about 10 minutes, but at least progress was being made. Or this little war could draw in the rest of the world. In times like these, my thoughts turn toward the church and those who lead her. How should followers of Jesus be preparing for the days ahead? Let's talk about that today on this special episode of Puddle Road. This channel exists to help you see God and find purpose in everyday life. And if you are appreciating this content, could you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, all the things that help us in the algorithm so that more people can see our content and hopefully be blessed as well. This summer, I have felt led to speak primarily to pastors and leaders in the church. And since I'm speaking to pastors, I want to address the topic of how we should prepare our churches for what may be coming. I don't think I'm the only pastor who thinks that the events of the last few weeks feel a little more significant than previous conflicts in the Middle East. It seems almost inevitable that we are at least heading to a time of instability in the world. And because of that, I feel that I have a responsibility to prepare my people for what may be coming. My fear for the church, though, is that when stuff goes down in Israel, many of us tend to get focused on the wrong things. In my area of the country, we love us some conspiracy theories. And I know a lot of people, even pastors, who are just a few news stories away from gathering up the canned goods and heading to the bunker out back. That kind of reactive response, even though it's done with a sincere heart, doesn't help anybody. It just makes people more afraid than they already are. There's also this tendency among pastors and Christian influencers to start speaking with certainty about the end times whenever Israel is in the news. You know, I figure a lot of pastors who put all of their end times charts and graphs away when the Antichrist didn't appear after Y2K are feeling pretty tempted to pull them back out now. There are already people on YouTube proclaiming that the colors of the Iranian flag are the four horses of the apocalypse and that we are right now careening toward Armageddon. Well, maybe we are. and maybe we're not. It's fun and fascinating to speculate about when Jesus will return and what events will look like before he does. But the truth is, whether you are a premillennialist, a postmillennialist, an amillennialist, or a what's a millennialist, none of us actually know how and when God is going to wrap this thing up. And so, while we have to resist the temptation to be reactive or to go all end time prophet in times like these, there are some ways that we can and should prepare our people for the difficult days ahead. I want to look at three of them today. The first one is this: turn their eyes toward Jesus. Many of the people in your church are worried. Parents with children in the military felt their hearts drop when news of that first strike broke. Kids of military age are quietly wondering if there's going to be a draft. And TikTok and social media are just fanning that flame. Everyone who picks up their phone is instantly subjected to the absolute worst case scenarios that could tear our world apart. Remember, media profits off of anger and fear. And as the world is screaming at people to look at everything that is bad or that could go wrong, you, Pastor, get to help them fix their eyes on Jesus instead. And I'm not just talking about the possibility of his soon return. I mean, constantly reminding them that he is already here, now, living in them and working among them. I'm talking about uh, pointing them to the scriptures that talk about his faithfulness and making room for them to enter into his presence through times of deep, lingering worship, showing them over and over all the ways the Holy Spirit is working in their lives and in your church right now. If you can teach your people, instead of trying to discern all the signs of the end, to cultivate a relationship with Jesus and walk with him now, there's nothing they won't be able to face with confidence and with faith when times get hard. The second thing is this: knit them together with one another. I hope this whole thing with Iran blows over in a month or two and people go back to talking about Diddy. But that might not be the case. We may get drug into another war that tests the very fabric of our republic. And if that happens, our opinions on the end times aren't going to matter. But our relationships with one another will. That's why, as pastors and leaders, we have both the privilege and the responsibility of building community within our churches now. And I get it. It's a really hard thing to do in this uber busy, overworked, sports obsessed culture, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. The early church set us the example. You remember the day of Pentecost, 3,000 get saved, and this is the next thing they did. Acts chapter 2 says they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. They devoted themselves to this. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together, community, and had everything in common, community. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. When the Holy Spirit hit and revival broke out, the next thing that happened was that the church built community. They were taking care of one another. Now, granted, they were all in Jerusalem, so they weren't living in their own homes, and they sort of had to do this to function and operate, take care of one another. But even after that, they broke and they went back to their normal lives. This pattern of community continued within the church. There was an intentional cultivation of community where people relied on each other for spiritual, emotional, and physical support. It's built in to being a Christian. It is built in to doing church. And so if you don't have a system in place for this to happen, now is your chance. Raise up some leaders within your church who can lead small groups where people can gather to talk and share and pray and care for one another in ways that can't happen on a Sunday morning. And then expand that out into the communities where they meet. That way, if things do get rough, they will already have a built-in support system to help them through. And finally, number 3, teach them to live with open hands. Fear drives us to clutch and hold on to what is ours. Hence the pastor telling his people to stock up on ammunition. His advice was given out of love and concern for his people's well-being, but that is not how Jesus taught us to live. This is how Jesus taught us to live. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Look, I know there's a difference between, hoarding up things for yourself and just being prepared. We need to be prepared. But Jesus taught us to live a life of open-handed generosity. One of the things that drew people to Jesus in the first few hundred years of the church was that the Christians had such a radical love that they would literally put themselves in danger and go without in order to take care of other people. In a materialistic culture like ours, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to teach people to live open handed. But if you can help to form that in them now, their generosity will be a powerful witness to the world if and when things get tough. Thanks again for joining me on Puddle Road. We are working here to build a community of people who see God and find purpose in everyday life, whether that's good days, bad days, or uncertain days. Following Jesus, it isn't glamorous, it isn't always easy, but it is the one thing that brings life. And so be encouraged as you lead others and follow Him. And I'll see you next time, right here on Puddle Road.